As I said in the last video, we're using WPF because of the advantages it gives us in layout. But it's basically an event-driven application that we're building, and just like in any event-driven application, controls have names, and then code behind manages what happens with the content of those controls. So this control here, for example, is a text box, and it's been given a name x:"name equals source file location text box. Now this is an X namespace, which is up here. You don't have to worry about it at all, but it's referring to that allows us to name the controls. So we have to provide a name for every control that has to be managed in code. Now the second text box is destination file location text box, and this one is called prefix text box. The button is called select source button, select destination button, and rename files button. So you can see that meaningful names are given to the controls so that when we use the code that we create, we can manipulate what the content of these things or the actions that they carry out. Now, my application is based around classes, and I've done this very deliberately because I'm very conscious of the fact that Moodle is open source. Moodle improves all the time. It's wonderful already, but it improves all the time. And it is likely that in some cases things will be listened to about names of files and so forth, and the ways in which people are making the modules that contribute to Moodle may mean that the file structure, the name structure, is changed in the future. So what I can do is that if I've got this class-based, I only have to work on reformatting the way in which the code is run in one place. This application is based around sort of three things. There's the WPF, which gives us the layout, and the WPF has controls which allow us to select files and select destination folders. But basically the code that we use is going to deal with string parsing and file renaming based on the strings that have been parsed. And that's the structure of what we're going to consider in this video. So what I'll do now is explain the interface code. That's dealing with that button and that button, because what these two buttons will do is that this button will open up an open file dialog, allow us to select a file, the zip file in our case, so that we can put its name into there. The full path can go into there and can be managed as a string. This one, similarly, we're going to have a target destination for our unzipped files, and we want to know where we want to put it. So we put that there. We put it as a text file, so a string into that text box. Now I don't intend to deal with this one just yet, because that needs all of our libraries which interact, or our classes which interact with each other, in order to go to the source, get the file, copy it into the destination, unpack it, rename it, delete the original. So that's what happens with this. Now before you go any further, what I suggest you do is add a vital reference. Because we're unpacking using a library within the .NET framework, add a reference. And the reference that we want to add is, I'm going to repeat this in a minute, it's called system.io.compression file system. Now you'll see I've already added that. So you would go to the right click on references, add reference. It's in this .NET folder here, and that's the one I add. So I won't add it again, obviously, and you'll see that it is in my list of references, and it took me ages to find out that that was needed. A lot of research done on that, but I'm really glad I found that, because what it allows us to do is to work with compression in much more shorthand code. So let's look at the code for our buttons. Really important that we do this. So select the button. You'll notice that when I select this, the relevant XAML shows up here relating to that piece. So let's select that button. If I go to the click event, press F12, I get the code behind. So what this code does is it makes an open file dialog which needs that directive there, that reference there, the using statement there in C#. So when you've got the new Open File Dialog object, which is OFD, we can apply constraints within that object structure. We can say that it wants to filter for zips. Default extension is zip. Multi-select is false. We don't have the capacity to manage more than one zip file within this application. So when the Open File Dialog button is pressed, show dialog equals true. The string we get from the Open File Dialog object, and we put it into the source file location text box as a string. So it's very straightforward, as you can see. It's exactly the same with the destination button, but this time we make a thing called a file browser dialog, which needs the references Windows Forms up there. So we give it a description, which is the header of the file dialog box. Show new folder button equals true, because quite often you've got this file and you've forgotten to create a destination folder for it, so you allow that to be done on the fly. And then similarly respond to the result. Take the content of the browser dialog and put it into the text box. So let's see that in action, just so that you understand exactly what's happened. I've shown you this before, but I'll just it'll mean more things now when we do this as an example. Select the source. That one. That's the zip we want. Open causes it to be put into this text box here. Similarly, select the destination. Now there's the select destination folder message that we gave in for the header. So once again, I'm just going to do something random in this case. OneDrive, Documents, OK. And it's been put into the text box. We're not going to do anything with it in this case. In fact, I'll demonstrate my clear button works by clearing that. But that's the code behind for these two buttons, and that's the vital data that our application needs in order to perform its task. This is a simple dumb text box that just takes a text that we can manage when we come to rename files. So in the next video, what I'll do, the final video, I'll explain how the libraries interact when we press this button here.